Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of Edmonds This Week, General Election Results Edition. I'm naming this one Part 1 because even though the election results came out tonight, it is the first of many. There's going to be several days where votes are being tallied because a lot of us like to vote the day of. And so there's going to be some time where votes are still going to be calculated until you get to a final result. So I'm going to talk about a handful of results that are particular to Edmonds, but I do want to do a couple of caveats. One is, again, more votes are going to come in as the days progress. So do not take tonight as the absolute, this is what it is, especially with those that are relatively close. Now, those that have a kind of a larger gap to fill, and we'll go into a couple of those in a few minutes, you can pretty much tell it. But there's a couple of special things that you also have to keep in mind too, other than the fact that again it's night one of the results. So even someone like me who put in her ballot yesterday into the ballot box, I did not get a text until tonight, actually after everything closed, to say that my ballot had been accepted. So I don't know if it's in tonight's count or it's going to be in tomorrow's count. But everyone who most likely went in today to drop off their ballots at the ballot box, at the specific one, it probably won't be counted for the next couple of days. So Democrats specifically, and I do count myself as one, we like to wait till the last minute to vote. And so usually you'll see an uptick from those voters' ballots over the next couple of days. The second thing is that you had this really weird thing going on with the U.S. Postal Service, meaning that they've changed some of their protocols to say that even if you mailed it today and put it in the USPS box, doesn't mean that it's going to get postmarked today, and it has to be postmarked today. So there is some speculation that there are still going to be people who did put it into the USPS mailboxes either yesterday or today that might not get postmarked by today. So there is some kind of pending issue or some pending thoughts about the fact that there might be people whose ballots will be nullified because it was not postmarked by today. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out over the next couple of days. But with that, let's go into these initial results, okay? So we're first going to start with City Council. Now, I might wax a little bit poetic here, but I'm going to do my best to kind of keep it as neutral as possible. But I also still want to share my insights as someone who has been through this process on a number of occasions and kind of live through some of these election night and post-election night numbers and issues. So number one is, especially when it comes to position one or any of these positions that have an incumbent, that is a hard hill to climb. It doesn't matter how talented you are, how versed you are. It's just the electorate. It's just kind of where we are. If you see someone who has an I next to the name as incumbent, there are some people who are not as plugged in that will still vote for the incumbent. Doesn't mean the incumbent isn't qualified. It just is what it is. It is what it is. So with position one, with Chris Eck being the incumbent coming in, she does have a sizable lead coming into this first election night result. So far, congrats to Chris. For position two, again, technically, Will Chen was running unopposed because Jessica Bachman had, for her reasons, suspended her campaign. However, it wasn't in time for her name to not be on the ballot. So it's on the ballot. And she still managed to get 11% of the vote so far. We don't know how much more that's going to change. And I don't think that it's going to come up to a point where Will needs to feel challenged. I think he has it. But some people that may have voted for Jessica could have done so for a couple of reasons. One could be as a referendum because some folks haven't liked Will Chen for a number of different reasons that they have. So it's kind of like a protest vote. Or again, we definitely have people that are out there that will not necessarily know what's happening or even know that she withdrew and say, hey, I'm going to vote for her anyway. Or as a woman, a guy versus a woman, we do that. So she still, again, have not campaigned for this total general election season, still managed to garner over 1,200 votes. And again, that number may increase over the next couple of days. And then we have position 3. Now, this one's very close. So you do have 2 newcomers coming in. So between Erica and Alex, right now, Erica has the edge, 53% to Alex's 46%. But as I said earlier, Dems, which is what Alex also identifies as, like to vote late. Like to vote at the last minute. So I would not be surprised if this number goes back and forth over the next few days. So don't count out Alex right now. Don't count in Erica right now, just because it could change on a day-to-day basis. Let's talk about Port. And again, there were 3 spots that were open on Port, but only one was contested, and that was the one with Janelle Cass as the incumbent, again, with Chelsea Rudd as the challenger. So right now it's a 57 to 42%, so 3,600 votes to roughly just over 2,700 votes. Again, there are some cases where if we didn't have the USPS issue, it might be, okay, let's go ahead and call it. But because I'm calling it a dangling Chad, if you remember that, I'm dating myself. Because that's out there with the whole USPS thing, we don't know how this number might change or if it might flip. It's not that much of a gap that it could not be possible. Again, if we didn't have the USPS issue, I would say, no, it's not possible. But because it's out there, we won't know for the next couple of days. We'll see what happens. So right now, the incumbent, Janelle, is in the lead. So now let's talk about the school district. Again, the only contested position was the District 401 with Tom versus Jason. And Tom has a very sizable lead. So this is one of those that I feel like I can safely call and say that Tom has retained his seat that he was appointed into. And again, Keith in District 2 did not have an incumbent, nor did the other person. So here we are. Prep 1. Now, this is the one that's interesting. This was very contentious. And, you know, I've made a couple of posts about this already, about just, again, we all have to live here. And it got just to the point where people were insulting each other. And it's like, we don't have to personally attack each other. And there was going to be no real winners on this. And so the no vote is significantly higher than the yes vote. I didn't think it would be that much of a gap on day one. I really thought that maybe over time it would the gap would increase one way or the other. I didn't know if it would go the no way or the yes way. I gave my opinion on which one I was supporting and why. So I'm going to that. But that's a gap. And again, even though we still have votes that are still coming in, I don't know if this is one that might flip to the yes side. I don't know. But I think this one was just so contentious and it was so personal. And I think there's a lot of different things that were factored in. There's a lot, you know, we just came off of the RFA vote where taxes went up, and now this one was coming up, and there's still a handful of others that's being handled on a city level that are happening. And this one just wasn't easy. It really wasn't. And again, when people have asked me my opinion, all I said was, look, when you work with a senior population and you hear them fretting, and especially now with everything that's going on with the government shutdown and the cuts to SNAP and WIC, there's a lot of panicked people. So even if no wins, there is no win. If yes would have won, there still would have been less of a win because someone was going to suffer one way or the other. We don't know what's going to happen with this, and it will be interesting to see that if the no vote holds, if it truly holds, it's going to be interesting to see if the narrative that came out of the city is as accurate as they portrayed it to be. Will all of these cuts really happen, or will they go back to the drawing board and say, okay, let's do another one for a lot less money? So maybe the $6 million as opposed to this 14 million. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to watch and see what happens. But like I said, at the end of the day, there's no one that's like some really true clear winner. Now, the county charter review commission in District 3. I did put my name in for this. A ton of other people did. And I didn't think I was going to make it into the top 3 for a number of different reasons. The major one is I really didn't do a lot of campaigning around it. It's something that I wanted to do, but between going through brain surgery and dealing with some other things, it just was not at the top of my list of getting things going. But I think the people that have run for this have good intention, and I hope that whoever ends up winning the 3 spots for District 3 will really do a really good job um, in getting some things done and reviewing the charter and making some suggestions. I'm just going to throw it out there. One of the main reasons I know that I wanted to submit my name for this was because I am a believer in ranked choice voting, and as a county, one of 7 in Washington State that has what we call a home rule charter. He said we can make up and kind of dictate what happens within this county. And so I know that there are several people on this list who are also pro ranked choice voting and some that are not. So it will be interesting to see out of the ones that are chosen for these 3 who ends up getting it. But I do want to say a very special thank you to many of you who texted me and emailed me over the past few days to say that you voted for me. So I really, really appreciate that. I hope you don't see it as a wasted vote if I don't win, but the heart is there, and I will still kind of be involved in that in any way that I can be. So that is General Election 2025 Part 1. I'm hoping to come back and do this maybe on Monday and see where the numbers lie. We'll kind of compare tonight's numbers to the numbers that come in by next week, Monday, which will still be before they certify the vote. But I think we'll have a better idea of where these numbers land, and it'll be interesting to see if there is any real issue with what was going on with the USPS and the count between now and Monday. So that is the late night version of Edmonds this week, the general election edition. Again, if you voted, thank you. And I will also come back on Monday with kind of some greater statistics, like I did with the primary election. Because it is a mid-year election, there's not as much of a high turnout as it would be during like a presidential election year or something like that. But every vote counts, and we should always be voting when the opportunity presents itself. So with that, have a great rest of the evening and enjoy the rest of the week.